Guys, after subscribing to this channel, please make sure that you also press the bell icon so that no notification, no new video of mine, any educational video, is missed by anybody.
Next question is how will you manage this patient? I mean, what will you tell? How will you follow up this patient?
Ma'am, we will do her weekly bile acid levels and LFTs.
Initially you will do weekly LFT and bile acids. Okay, why?
Yes.
Why? So early. I mean, I've never seen any patient, probably in preeclampsia only we spoke about yesterday, that you'll do weekly, this blood samples. But I mean, no other case usually you call the patient weekly. So why are we following this patient up weekly? Two very important reasons. First of all, you want to be sure of your diagnosis. The LFTs are not increasing. Number one. Number two, bile acids, are they remaining stable? So it is said that weekly you will do initially. And once you do understand a stabilizing trend, you can do it maybe once in 2 weeks or even once in 4 weeks. Okay? Yeah. Initially, but you have to do repeat testing, multiple testing. See, if initial bile acids are normal, but the itching persists, repeat LFTs and bile acids. Okay, so initially you might have to do it weekly so that you do understand the trend. Where is this patient going? You want to be very sure that you're dealing with cholestasis only. Okay, it's very easy to presume that it's cholestasis. What if it is viral hepatitis in the beginning? You never know. This is how it's going to start. And you always mention and remember in your mind that any patient will be lost to follow up. So you have to be very sure when you're giving the instructions to the patient, right?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, here's the monitoring weekly starting with. Okay, and then you can kind of weekly testing as approaching 38 weeks. Weekly testing even in the beginning. Okay, don't get confused with this. It's not only weekly testing towards the end. It's weekly testing in the beginning and probably towards the end, because you want to be sure of the delivery timing. So that you told your patient that now you come weekly to us and we like to see you. And patient is asking you why weekly, so that also you manage that. I want to see how your tests are going on, whether it is actually IHCP we are dealing with, what if there is other liver disorder. So she asks you what other liver disorders can happen to me in pregnancy. What will you say? That also I've made.
Yeah. Ma'am, she can have viral hepatitis.
That can happen anytime in pregnancy, isn't it? Anything else?
Ma'am, she can be having, acute fatty liver of pregnancy.
Okay. But that's like a very dangerous condition, isn't it? That if she's going in that direction, then we'll have to immediately terminate the pregnancy, isn't it? Okay, anything else?
Ma'am, she may have...
Okay, there's a whole DD. It's a 2-page long DD. I've put in the beginning of the slides only, you must have seen. Go forward and look at that, because that is the next question that will be asked. That is a pakka question to be asked in exam. I am not asking because I'm more concerned in telling you some very vital things which I'll miss otherwise if I go back to liver disorders. Okay, so just do that DD, because they'll ask you DD only, and only those points they'll ask you which I've written in those slides. They'll ask you why do you think it is not viral hepatitis, why it is not acute fatty liver in pregnancy, why is the differential diagnosis cholangiosis of pregnancy. All these things are there. Don't worry. So that will be the max question, and then come back to cholestasis. So let me concentrate on cholestasis, right? So like you're monitoring her. You're monitoring, calling her every week to see her LFTs and bile acids, and they're maintaining stable, right? So let's say her, bile acids is maintaining at 34, and her LFTs are, somewhere around 95, 110, 120, back to 98. What else are you giving apart from this management to her? Like you called her every weekly to see, right? What else are you telling? Are you going to explain her? This will be the investigation.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, for itching, we will give her emollients or and first of all, to relieve her symptoms of itching, we will give her emollients and we will start her on ursodeoxycholic acid. Okay, good. So you basically want to reduce her local itching and she's able to sleep at night, and you're giving her ursodeoxycholic acid. And does this ursodeoxycholic acid have any role in reducing IUD in a patient with IHCP? Is it preventive? No, it only helps in reducing the bile acid levels. It helps in reducing the itching, and it has been seen.
Okay, so it reduces the level of bile acids, keeps it at a level at which we can manage the pregnancy, but it has no role in reducing or predicting or preventing IUD in the patient, which we are most concerned about, right?
Yes.
All right. So this is one thing I'd like to tell you, that mostly the cholecystitis of pregnancy does two important things. Preterm labor is highly associated with IHCP, and stillbirth rate is highly associated. Now I'll tell you how important the bile acid levels are, and why do we say this is more in case of higher bile acid levels. See, stillbirth risk. All right. So I'm trying to emphasize some very important point from this slide here. I'm trying to tell you the stillbirth rate risk in all these different levels of bile acids, why bile acids monitoring is extremely important. In fact, the whole the whole monitoring of IHCP and the whole management of IHCP a lot depends upon the level of bile acids. So bile acids between 19 to 39, the risk is similar to the background population till 40 weeks. The bile acids between 40 to 99, the risk is similar to the background population. That means a normal low risk population till 38 to 39 weeks. That means you better deliver these patients before or at least 38 to 39 weeks. You can't take it beyond that, because if you do take a patient of bile acids above 40 till 40 weeks, the chance of IUD substantially increases. And the same thing just see for patients above bile acids 100. Significantly higher than background IUCD risk. Risk rises from 35 to 36 weeks. So you better deliver the patient by that time. That's the crux you get from this table. Not only that, mild ICP, that means between 19 to 39, the chance of preterm birth rate is 16%. That between 40 to 99 is 19%, and substantially it increases to 30% preterm rate if there is bile acids above 100. So this is what I wanted to tell you. Not only that, when you're monitoring a patient of this level, remember that not only will you monitor her for bile acids and LFTs, you will also do preeclampsia monitoring, because lots of times this is an association with preeclampsia. You will also follow her up for gestational diabetes, again, because this is associated with diabetes. You will ask this patient for proper daily fetal movement count. You will explain her the importance of doing daily fetal movement count. If at any point in time there are decreased fetal movements, you will take her seriously. You might call her for CTG and even a fetal ultrasound, BPP. BPP also does not predict or prevent stillbirth. It's not a recommended monitoring tool. You will not monitor her with that. But if she comes with decreased fetal movements, this is the go-to ultrasound. Okay. Again, growth scan is not recommended to be done more frequently than what it already is in other patients. Okay. And of course, the rest of the things I've already spoken to you. These are the risks which are substantially increased. So meconium stain liquor is increased, neonatal admission chances are increased, maternal preeclampsia, diabetes, they are also increased. And recurrence chance is almost as high as 50% to 70% in the next pregnancy. Usually, what is the time at which they get the derangement of IHCP gets okay in postpartum, Rebecca? Like postpartum, post-op, or post-delivery, how much do you have to follow up this patient? When do you call her for 6 weeks? What, you're not able to speak, Rebecca? Not able to connect from my laptop, okay? Fine, no problem. You keep answering then. So what I'm trying to tell exactly over here is that how to manage this patient. So I already told you how to manage this patient is that you will call her weekly for her LFTs and bile acids. You'll also monitor her for preeclampsia, for fetal movements, for diabetes, okay, for the development of any other new signs and symptoms, because then in that cases your diagnosis will change to other causes of deranged LFTs, all right, or pruritus in pregnancy. So you'll monitor for all other causes, and you will deliver her at a timely interval. So let me tell you, if the bile acids are above 100, you will deliver her by 35, 36 weeks. If the bile acids are between 40 to 99, you'll deliver her by 38, 39 weeks. And if the bile acids are less than 40, then you can take her up till 40 weeks, no problem. Okay. So there is no test, first of all, which can predict or prevent IUD. The chances of IUD are substantially increased in patients, as I've already told you. The chance of preterm birth, mostly iatrogenic, is increased in IHCP because of the derangement of LFTs at any point in time and the scare of IUD, stillbirth. Correct? And how, so now you've taken a till term. Is there any which way in which you would like to deliver? Would you like to go ahead with normal vaginal delivery, or you want to take her up for cesarean section? Yeah, Rebecca, I'm expecting an answer from you only. Wait, I can't see. So answer will be normal vaginal delivery because no indication to go for a cesarean section. Okay, and delivery timing I've already told you. Here is the delivery timing for 40, 38, 39, 35, 36. Okay, then if there is any other association like GDM, preeclampsia, then you might deliver early. That's a different case altogether. Twin delivery, of course, is going to, they'll go in preterm labor anyways. And the mode of delivery, like I was telling you, there is no need to go for any intervention. You can go ahead with a normal vaginal delivery, and there is going to be no increased effects during the intrapartum period. At the same time, yeah, Rebecca, just type here, okay? Because I'll not be able to see from this other place you people keep typing in, okay? Analgesia, you can give any you want to. And is there any third stage management? There's going to be a standard active management. And how will you follow up is my question. So the follow-up will be, call her after 4 weeks to do an LFT test again, and it will get resolved. Then you're for sure that you are dealing with early stages of pregnancy. See, now as per the GTG latest guidelines, they said there is no routine offer of ursodeoxycholic acid, but larger RCTs have showed no improvement in perinatal outcome, only a small reduction in itch. It does not reduce bile acid concentrations, and it may reduce late preterm birth. So as far as UDCA is concerned, this is the exact answers the examiner would want from you. What does UDCA do? It chelates mostly. Okay, so it reduces to a certain extent, but now they say it does not reduce bile acid concentrations as per the largest RCT trials. Okay, so the randomized control trials have shown that it's not giving any substantially great risk or great advantage of management in pregnancy. Though we see that most of the patients, they say that the itch has reduced, but actually they don't reduce a large part of bile acids. They do not bring about any major effect in managing the pregnancy in terms of improvement in perinatal outcomes. So ursodeoxycholic acid is not doing any major benefit. Topical emollients, I've already told you. So these are evidence-based guidelines. Okay, they also have some effect of antihistamines, but it's very uncertain. Relief maybe you will get because of sedative effect rather than any antihistaminic action. Vitamin K was given many times in many patients, right? So let me tell you, when do you give vitamin K? Only if there is abnormal prothrombin time or there is steatoria. Only then you will give vitamin K, otherwise it's got no use. Okay, so you have to check the coagulation profile in this patient, and you have to give vitamin K only then. Do not think about rifampicin also. So I think that's about it. That's what's going to be maximum asked out of you in your patient. So if they ask you that is there any which way in which you can predict IUD, so you will say there is no test, not even ultrasound, not ultrasound BPP, no ultrasound, no CTG, nothing will be able to predict the fact that this patient is going in to have IUD or a stillbirth. So there is no monitoring with the basis of increased level of ultrasound BPP that you're doing. Oh, BPP has to be done every week or every next week. No. Okay. In fact, if they ask you, okay, why not BPP? There's no evidence-based guideline. It has not shown any effect in predicting stillbirth. Now, if you have any questions, let me answer your questions. Otherwise, let's call it a day, guys. So these slides, this study material is just sufficient for you to answer all questions related to IHCP, including your differential diagnosis. Okay. Rebecca, any question? Anyone, any question? All right, guys, then I'll call it a day and I'll see you tomorrow. And then you have 3 days off from my side. Then we'll meet next week. Very well done, Rebecca. Very well done. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Good night. God bless. I'll see you tomorrow.